We're starting with the next big fight between business and environmental groups here in New York, centered on cryptocurrency. You might not think about it a lot, but it affects your money and the air you breathe, so certainly worth your attention. To boil it down, crypto companies use a lot of power for the servers that work to earn the digital money, and with that comes concerns about pollution. It's already been a heated debate nearby in the Finger Lakes, where a former coal plant on Seneca Lake is being used for crypto mining. That led to a first-of-its-kind bill in the state assembly that would block any new air quality permits for 2 years for operations like this. And just a few hours ago, it passed through the Ways and Means Committee. So joining us live is Jimmy Vielkind, reporter for the Wall Street Journal, who's been covering this brewing battle. Jimmy, we're glad to have you here to talk about this. And we know that this issue is relevant to Western New York because we've already seen these facilities start up here. So what would the bill mean for companies that want to move in and the ones that have already set up shop?
Okay, any company that has already set up shop would be grandfathered in. And of course, that assumes this legislation passes. As you said in the opening, it would place a 2-year moratorium on the issuance or renewal of any permits for new power generating facilities like plants that would lead to potentially an increase or new crypto mining. One thing that seemingly would be impacted are plans by DigiHost to develop a facility in North Tonawanda in Western New York. That, if this bill passed, would presumably put on hold.
In a way, for some people, this might feel like deja vu. Go back a few years and you had New York's fracking fight. So on one hand, you had a big business opportunity for the state, but on the other, there were environmental concerns. The environmentalists won that round with the fracking ban. Is there reason to think that this thing goes differently?
Well, there is another equation, which is organized labor. There is a union that represents workers at many of these power generation facilities. It has been weighing in against the adoption of this bill. And again, we're also seeing large amounts of interest from the business community. I spoke in reporting my story with Gavin Donahue, the president of the Independent Power Producers of New York, which represents power plant operators around the state. He asked, why should any industry be singled out? We're also hearing from cryptocurrency interests and companies, including the Blockchain Association, which represents exchanges, miners, and other major cryptocurrency investors. They said that this would send a very negative signal about New York to the industry. Of course, advocates for this bill say it does not affect use of cryptocurrency. It does not affect the development of cryptocurrency firms, and that is true. But the industry says that they would be perhaps hesitant to locate or grow in New York if this legislation were adopted. Whether or not that's a real threat or just rhetoric will, of course, remain to be seen. But it is something that the industry is saying with an increasingly loud voice in Albany.
So knowing all this background, and we mentioned this a lot in the town hall, but you know as well as anyone that Albany works at its own pace. We get a lot of these things that are proposed, they get a committee vote even, and then they just poof, they vanish. There's a lot to get done between now and the end of the session in June. So how much of a priority is this really, and how likely is it that anything gets done with it?
Well, that's of course always the million-dollar question, Kate. What we know is that it is scheduled for a vote in the state assembly. It did advance, as you said, through the Ways and Means Committee by a somewhat more narrow than expected vote. But if it comes to the chamber floor, it's likely to be approved there. Almost every bill that hits the floor is approved. And then it's the next battleground is the state Senate. I spoke last week with Senator Kevin Parker, a Democrat from Brooklyn who chairs the chamber's Energy Committee. And he said that he just wants to see something get done on cryptocurrency this year. He didn't commit necessarily to pushing this bill forward for a vote. There is, of course, competing proposals that would either study this practice or study cryptocurrency writ large. So he was less than committal. And we also didn't get a firm commitment either for or against this bill from Governor Kathy Hochul. Her spokeswoman told me that the administration is evaluating various proposals and, quote, will continue to engage with stakeholders and legislatures as new actions in regard to cryptocurrency are considered, and we will make decisions accordingly.
A classic hurry up and wait, so we'll have to do just that. We've been talking with reporter Jimmy Vielkind from the Wall Street Journal. Jimmy, always good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kate. It's always a pleasure to be with you and your viewers.